When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Good morning to you, world. How are we all? How are we all? How are we all? It is 9:05 in the morning, and I'm going to tell you why that's so important to me. I have hardly had a show in about 150 episodes. That means that I get up, I have a shower, a bowl of cornflakes, and then I'm ready to go. So it's brilliant to be sitting here at a normal time, talking to a normal person on a normal time zone. And the reason why it's good, he is in Germany at the moment, so I could literally stretch out my arm and touch him and probably nick a very large gold football item that they've just won over there. So all you Germans out there at the moment, stop celebrating because it makes us English people upset. Well, let's bring it onto the show. A man who, best way to sort of introduce you to him is he's travelled a path I thought was most unusual. Starting off by gaining his education in Pennsylvania, he's now found himself living in Yokosuka in Japan. I hope I said that well. Whilst working full-time for the US military, he has focused his downtime on self-development and the study of the small habits we have in our life that, when used effectively, can build up to something amazing. Now, I didn't know this, but from reading his blog, I found out that 1/3 to 1/2 of all our daily actions are habitual. Basically, literally half a day, we are doing the same things every single day. That's right. So everything in our lives, and I mean everything, are the result of these automatic habits. So our guest believes that our level of wealth, social circles, happiness, love, energy, fitness, fulfillment are all created by the subconscious mind. We don't realise that we're building our own futures by allowing these habits, some negative, to actually go unchecked. So it's his mission to help educate 100,000 people to become liberated, to take control of these habitual behaviours and change them. Well, I'll tell you what, this is a man that I need to talk to, so it's with delight that I bring onto the show to start joining up dots, the one, the only, Adam Smith. How are you today, Adam?
I'm doing fantastic, David. Thank you for that intro. That was amazing.
Did I do Yokosuka? Yokosuka. Is that how you say it?
You were really, really close. And whenever I first heard that I was going to Yokosuka, I was like, oh, I'm going to Yokosuka. And I told all my friends, Yokosuka. And one of them happened to have been stationed there. He said, no, it's actually Yokosuka.
That's not Japanese enough, though, is it? Because all Japanese words, you almost have to be angry when you say them, don't you?
Oh, well, Japanese is it can be very smooth language, like sumimasen, arigatou gozaimasu, or it can be very rough, like sumimasen, arigatou. So I think there's you can go either way with it.
Is it sad to say, Adam, but I think I like the rough stuff. I think I like the way you said the second lot.
That tells me what kind of man you are, David.
I am a man who likes a bit of rough Japanese every now and again, and I don't think I've ever said that on any show, so I don't know where I'm going with that. But how did you end up in Japan? Was it just purely from the military, or were you halfway through Karate Kid 4 and thought, this is the life for me?
Well, I have an interesting story for you for that one. So I ended up joining the military because of my ex-girlfriend, interestingly enough. And as I was going through, I finished boot camp, went to A school, which is my technical training. They told us that, if you get top of your class, you'll be able to pick where you go next, where you're stationed. So I said, oh, hell yes. I'm going to do the best I can do so I can be with my girlfriend. So
was she in the military as well?
Yes.
Oh, right.
Actually.
Okay.
So I went and worked really, really hard for 4 or 5 months, got top of the class, and got to pick. I wanted to go to Maryland first, and then at the very bottom of my list was Yokosuka. And of course, my chief comes in and says, all right, we got orders. Hey, Smith, you got Yokosuka. And I'm just like, holy shit. Like, I'm in a daze. I'm like, whoa, that just happened to me. And it took me a while to kind of process it. At first, I was okay with it. I was like, okay, this is going to be good. This is going to be all right. But whenever I got there, I fell into this huge depression. I mean, it was instant depression. My girlfriend broke up with me. I had no friends. I felt like I couldn't connect with anyone at work. I couldn't speak the language, of course. So I couldn't go out in town and meet people. I mean, sure, they speak English, but it's not as much as other countries. It's really, they don't speak much English. So I was completely alone. And what was running through my mind at the time, for maybe about 2 weeks, I was crying every day on the floor. And I was like, okay, something's got to change here. And I just made it up in my mind that, if I was a better man, if I was a better person, that this would not be such a big deal and I would be able to get through it. So I basically poured myself into reading. I think I read maybe 5 books a day, anything, everything, or not a day, a week, anything and everything I could get my hands on, listen to podcasts, and just kept improving my life. I developed a daily practice, and I started to change my habits I did every day. I was still a bit psychotic because I still didn't have very many friends, but I felt good. I felt better, and I kept getting better and better and better. I started meeting people in Tokyo that were expatriates that really resonated with me, and I started to develop a lot of friends. And now, 2 years later, my life is on fire, and I can't be happier. Could not have been happier.
Well,
how that turned.
It is on fire, isn't it? Because you, sir, you was on Entrepreneur on Fire, the other 7 days a week show. So how did that come about? And how did it happen before me? I thought I'd got you before anyone.
Well, so our mutual
You've done
friend...
the dirty on me, Adam. That's what I'm trying to say.
I'm sorry, David. Well,
you're a podcast whore. That's what you are.
Well, what happened was his schedule was open before yours, so I had to pick him first.
You're so easy to be led. It's a simple schedule, and then you're in there.
Yeah, so I reached out to our mutual friend Tom Morcus, and I sent him an email and said, "Hey, do you know anyone that would like to have me on a podcast?" And he said, "Yeah, man, here, send me an email back," and connected me with you and with John Lee Dumas, and it's been a blast ever since.
Tom Morcus, for the listeners, he was episode 1 of my show. Well, yeah, he was the official episode 1. If you go back to episode 0.5, it was just me kind of going, "Hello, this is David, and I'm a bit scared, but I'm going to do this show." And then Tom came on, and Tom was a huge pivotal point in me changing direction. And if you listen back to episode 1, you can hear how Tom, even though he was a complete stranger to me, really helped me make a leap of faith and gave me the courage and the connections to be able to get this going. So I didn't know him at all, but he's been an absolute tower of strength for me. But you actually knew him from the military, did you?
No, actually, I had a business where I was analyzing blogs to help people, get more listeners, figure out what our readers, figure out what their readers liked and things like that. And I just reached out to him and said, "Hey, I like your blog, and here's an analysis of it." And he said, "Cool, I really like it." And we just kept talking, connecting, and just kind of went from there.
Because I started reading his blog, and I remember saying this to him on the show that he was there, the thing that struck me with his blog was it was quite obvious it was a one-man band, but the whole thing looked like every letter had been lovingly positioned. It looked like a branding. It was like a company brand. So how was his blog doing? Was it something that was very nice to look at, but was bringing in the traffic big time? How can you actually analyze a blog and say this is what you need to change?
Well, I don't look at traffic numbers. I look at social shares, because I think if you get a ton of people to your website, that's kind of useless if they're not doing anything. So yeah, he was doing very successful, but I helped him identify a few areas that were more successful than what he thought, because there were a lot of posts he would post in the same category, but they weren't getting as much social shares as, let's say, the lean startup category, where he had one post, but it was 3 times the amount of shares as all the others. So and you start to see these connections. And I also told him his best days to post, because it's different for every blog. Business blogs are a little more popular during the week, and then maybe a fun blog is more popular on the weekends. So you really can't just follow the old Monday, Wednesday, Friday rule. It's really, you have to test every single day and kind of go from there.
So how would somebody like myself that does it 7 days a week, how would you be able to test mine?
Well, basically, I would scrape all the data from your website using import.io, and it's a visual data scraper. You don't need to know any code. And I would download all that into an Excel spreadsheet, use Google Refine to pull shared counts, API stats. You can use, I think, 100,000 URLs a day. Get all from Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, put all that into an Excel spreadsheet, and then use pivot tables, which is just a way to organize data a little more easily. And I'm able to find out a lot of stuff, like best days to post, the best wording to use in your headlines. If you're, let's say you have other guests on, I can figure out who's the best guest poster. If you are a journalist, it's really nice because you're able to see what is really, really popular on certain websites. So let's say you're about to go guest post for Wired or something like that. You're able to see who was the most successful and maybe why. So it's really pretty valuable, I think.
I think it's more than valuable, sir. And I think there's going to be a lot of listeners out there thinking like I am. You know, I post every day and I throw it on my website, and some of them go really well and some of them don't. And I've never really worked out why some do and some don't. But you're going behind the scenes, pulling open the curtain, and you're seeing the works, the behind the scenes works.
Yeah, there's actually a really good guide on okdork.com, Noah Kagan's blog, which is where I got the how to do it, essentially. But it is a lot of work. I will warn you, it is a lot of work, and every blog is kind of different. I've had a few blogs where it would keep messing up and I couldn't get it. But there's a few workarounds that I figured out, which is complicated. So that's why people hire me to do it, because it's hey, here's some money, and I say, okay, here's all your data, and they kind of like that. So yeah.
Perfect. I'm going to delve into that after the show, sir. I'm going to have a quick word with you about that, because it's being able to make things go viral. That is the quickest way, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the nice thing is too, for instance, I analyzed Chris Brogan's blog, and he was really surprised that the most popular posts were his, I think it was the me or you post. It was the ones where he had a personal pronoun in the headline. And he explained why. He's like, that makes a lot of sense to me now, because I'm a very personable person. People feel like they know me within 5 minutes. And I was like, wow, I do feel like I know you right now, Chris. But and so he's like, wow, I feel like going out and writing 1,000 me posts or you posts. I forget exactly what the wording was. And I was like, wow, that's great.
Did you think that is a key thing? I wasn't going to talk about this, but do you think that is a key thing for success now in the online world, where you're not behind a mask, you are out there, and people will get to know you better than perhaps you know yourself? Certainly with podcasting, it's very easy to do that if you want to, because your voice is coming out, people are listening to the voice. And certainly in my case, and I'll be honest with you, quite a lot of the time I'm not actually sure what I'm going to say. It just kind of comes out of me, so it is truly me. Do you think it's easier to become a success when you are not scripted and you're just being your honest, pure self?
Absolutely. But I think you have to be comfortable with yourself first, because if you're scripted, you're going to be fake, and people can see that. And if you're also not confident with yourself and you don't bring your true self to the table, people will also see that, and that could possibly be worse than the scripted version, because at least with the script, you have something to hide behind, and it maybe appears that you're doing better than you are. But if you're truly confident, like you are, David, then I think your true personality shows through, and people are able to connect with you better. I mean, if you look at Chris Brogan's blog, he puts everything out there, and he is immensely successful. So,
because one of the things that I'm trying to get across to people on the shows on a daily basis is, although we're having these conversations with hugely successful people, These people are hugely successful because they are playing to their own personal strengths. They are being themselves. And you see it time and time and time again, especially in the podcasting world, that somebody comes out with a show, it's different from everybody else, they do really, really well with it, and everybody else goes, that's what I'm going to do. And they basically replicate it. And you think, no, you're missing a trick. You've got to come out with your own thing. You've got to do something different because you haven't got the skills. You haven't got those personal habits that make that show successful. So play on your own strengths. But people don't see that. They just think that by mimicking, they can find the key to the door and get success.
Very true, but the same instance, what are you trying to do with your podcast too? Because maybe if the way that person is doing the podcast, if that really resonates with you, that might be a good idea to replicate for yourself. I mean, if you look at the Samware brothers here in Germany, they're about to become billionaires. They're about to make their companies public, and all they did was copy eBay and I think another company they copied. But a lot of people don't like them, but I think that they're very intelligent because why try to start something new? I mean, isn't everyone kind of doing the same thing because it's a radio show, and radio shows have been done for, decades. So but I see what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying is, yes, you can create a new eBay, and the quick way to success is by finding a market within a market. So, for example, podcasting, yes, there's thousands of shows out there, but you don't need to copy the format of other people's shows because that is only, that is suffocating you because you haven't got those strengths. Classic example is EO Fire. We talk about EO Fire all the time. And that is, what questions are going to come. And that is a format that John Lee Dumas has created. It's incredibly successful for him. And he does it incredibly well because that's his format and he's developed it. And so good on him. But then you hear other people that haven't got his charisma, they haven't got his professionalism or whatever. And you kind of listen to it and you go, oh, I know what you're doing. You're just trying to do an EO Fire again. So yeah, don't create the wheel. Just find something that's already out there that's successful, but put your own spin on it and bring your own strengths to the table.
David, because with your podcast, I love how it's not scripted and we just talk, and that's very relaxing. But when I was on EO Fire, it felt very the same because he was so charismatic, like you were saying. He was able to just throw in witty comments off top of his head. I'm like, where is he getting this from? Is this written down too?
Yeah, absolutely, because he's playing to his strengths. He's developed it, and that format that he's created is his own thing, so he can take it naturally off-piste, bring it back, and you know what you're getting. So it's the perfect format. And I wish John Lee Dumas even more success because he is the benchmark for all of us. But for anybody out there who thinks you're just going to be JLD Mark II, do something slightly different. Even if you're taking the rough format of what he's doing, just try and be yourself because you will find it so much more enjoyable, and also you will gain success quicker. I'm convinced of that.
So if you don't know what you want to do with podcasting, how do you find out what your strengths are? You
play. I think one of the things that is brilliant about going into the online world is nobody notices you at the beginning, so you can try things out, and some things will fly and some things won't. And some things will feel absolutely spot on, and some things you kind of cringe when you listen back to it. And I think that's the idea. I think it's a playground at the beginning for you to go in ugly, have a rubbish old website, try things, make it look better, and just improve, incremental gains. And then by that practice, you will naturally find something that you're good at. I don't believe anyone can just turn on a switch and go bang, and it's a fully realized format or it's a fully realized product. It takes time to develop it. And it is totally liberating that you don't get 100,000 people a day when you first start. You get one person, and that's probably the cat who's just happened to click on a mouse and is listening to you. So you can do anything you want at the beginning, and then practice, then you will try and find your thing. I'm sure you, Adam, you're on the show now and you're finding your feet and you're doing things, but I'm sure that you've had successes and you've had failures when you look back on them and you go, yeah, it wasn't quite me. I was trying to force it too much at the time. Have you had any of those?
Oh, I have had many of these, many. So one of my first businesses I tried to start was I had really bad acne for my skin, and one thing that worked was counterintuitively was oils such as almond oil with essential oils like tea tree and peppermint and things like that worked really, really well. And I thought, maybe I can start a business with this because it looks like no one else is doing it. And I was doing all the keyword research and building a website, like I was testing it the Tim Ferriss way. And I had a famous actress who used almond oil or something. And I put it on my website thinking, oh, it's okay because she's not actually endorsing my product or anything. But obviously I know now that that was absolutely stupid to do. And I think I started to drive some traffic to it, and maybe a few hundred people, and no one signed up to pre-order it. So I was like, oh well, I don't really want to do it anyway. And I didn't keep persisting with it to refine the website, refine the copy. And I've had a few like this. The only other one that I really remember is I was trying to do a Focus Food Plus. I still really love the idea. I just don't want to do it because it's basically a supplement that helps you focus by providing you with amino acids, not just the essential ones, but all amino acids, which you really can't get in your diet. And they are the precursors to neurotransmitters in your head. So let's say you have everything right, you have your diet right, you're exercising, everything, you can still be deficient in these amino acids. So there's only one product on the market that provides all of them, which is the Geneesa Amino Solution. It's on Amazon for 60 or 70 US dollars, which is pretty expensive. I wanted mine to have Moringa oleifera powder, which can cure, I think, 300 diseases. It's one of the highest growing trees on earth. Camu root, which decreases, decreases cortisol intake, increases serotonin intake. And that one failed just simply because I was working so hard on optimizing the copy and not really focusing on delivering to my customers, but I didn't have the quite the knowledge to create the product, and I didn't want to spend, several $1,000s with something that could flop. So yeah, I tried many, many other things as well, but those are the two noticeable ones.
The two things that strike me with that, it's true what you say. You can love an idea, but it doesn't mean that you should do it. And that is so true. I've tried numerous things online that I've kind of thought, okay, I'm going to get an affiliate site and I'm going to link this and people are going to click on this and I'm going to make uber amounts of money and I'm going to be laying on a beach with a couple of models and this is going to be perfect. Obviously, I didn't tell my wife I was planning this, but this is my dream. But it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I was just kind of thinking this is a great idea and I should be sort of, pushing it forward. It is really when you've got that passion that ties in with your values. And I really believe this, Adam. It's like this show here. If I wasn't earning any money from it at all, I'd still be doing it because I purely love the conversations. I purely love the emails that I'm getting from people. And I love the interaction and the fact that people around the world are saying to me, I listen to it on a daily basis and I am doing X, Y, Z because of the content. So when money isn't part of it, I'm now starting to feel, and I've been feeling this for about the last 2 or 3 months, that ultimately you're going to win the game because you are finding the value in something that you want to give to the world. What do you think about that?
Oh, David, you hit the nail on the head. The thing is, though, it takes a lot of searching to find this out. I find that you have to write down the questions, and it's going to seem really foreign to you because whenever you start it at first, you don't really have an idea, but you start to plant the seed in your head, I think. And the thing with writing it down is that it's a direct connection to your subconscious mind. So your conscious mind, yes, is thinking about it, but in the end, if you just write down a question and then answer it immediately without trying to think about it, just start writing letters, that your true self will start to shine through and your subconscious mind will slowly start to dig up answers and more answers. And I think if you combine journaling with meditation, it's extremely powerful because you really get to start to know yourself. And I didn't start to realize that the helping people create habits is such a huge passion for me because I already do it in the military with I train 80 people a week in very large groups how to do exercises and fitness, but I also train smaller groups that need a little extra attention. And the way I do that is through small habits. So it's something I've already done for free, basically. I don't get paid. This is an extra job that I don't get paid to do. I love to do it. And I kept denying it for myself. I kept saying, no, you can't actually make money from that, or no, you can't actually do that. I mean, come on now, this is too much fun for you to actually make money off. You have to do something that's hard and you have to work for it. And I don't even know where these beliefs came from. I think it's they just came from the world. You know, the world always thinks, oh, work is different than your life. But I've come to find that if you make a conscious effort to change your life to align it with your work, that, oh my God, amazing things will happen, and you will not believe what the returns you will get. I mean, what do you think about that, David?
Do you know, Mr. Smith, I'm totally on board with that one, because I'm finding that on a daily basis. I did work for years and years and years, which paid the bills. And yeah, it was good money. And I would go in there, and probably I was justifying my time in the office more than the office justifying my time. I could go in, I could float around for days, really, not doing anything at all. Now doing this, number one, I want to do it. You know, I was up at 3 o'clock this morning, then I had 3 hours sleep, and I'm back at doing it again. Do I sound like it? Well, I do before I start recording, but after I start recording and we have these conversations, wham, it's like I'm on drugs again. You know, it's just powering through me. But the thing that really strikes a chord with what you're saying there is it's those things that you feel are playing. It's those things that you think, I can't earn money from this. This is too easy. But if you take the sort of the multi-millionaire songwriters, they just sit there and they bang out a song, bang. You know, Elton John, apparently, if he can't write a song in half hour, he just gives up on it. It has to be quicker than that. Otherwise, he's not going to do it. And if you look at some of the big businessmen, like Richard Branson, for example, he says, I don't care if it's, I don't see the difference between working and playing. To me, it's all living. And he just merges his life to be a combination of the two. So you do have fun, you do enjoy yourself, and if you provide value, it comes back to you. Now, one of the things I'm going to throw back to you, Adam, this is like a tennis match, is the tagline to the show is connecting our past to build our futures. And one of the things that has come out time and time again is the element that you were just talking about finding something which is effortlessly and easy and almost feels like you would do for nothing. So many of our guests have said to me, when I look back at my little self, when I look back at the tiny little Adam, and I was doing things on a daily basis because I just came home from school and it was what I loved doing, there is a continuity to what I am doing now. And so if I liked playing with Lego, I like building things now. If I liked providing support for people, I'm now a networker. If I liked drawing when I was a kid, I'm now an author or whatever, that kind of stuff. Was there sort of connections with you now that you can see as the little Adam before you got into the military and sort of adult life?
Yeah, actually, I hadn't really thought about that too deeply, so I'm glad you asked that question. But absolutely now, whenever I was a kid, I was kind of known as I would take things apart all the time, and I had little robots that would build without microprocessors. They're called beam bots. I love to build them, but they took a lot of parts. So one day I decided to go down into the living room, take the VCR, take everything out of it, and then put it back. So when my mom went to go use it, the next day, she put a tape into it and it just fell to the bottom. She said, "What the?" So I had taken it apart, and now all my things are kind of online, and it can get a little tedious with the websites and trying to build a website and things like that. But I kind of think that helping people to create habits is kind of like building someone's life. Block by block, it's the foundation, the habits. So, and also, whenever I was a child, I was also kind of the mediator. Everyone would come talk to me in the family if my mom was fighting with my brother, then they'd come both talk to me and things like that. And that's one thing I love to do is talk with people and help them figure out their problems. So I think it's an excellent merge of what was in my childhood together in one to make what I do today so enjoyable to me.
So you basically like to deconstruct things and then build them up?
Absolutely.
Now, isn't that fascinating? It's so fascinating that every single person, and I'm the same now, says the same thing. I went through years trying to find my passion. I went through years of trying to find this path that people keep on telling me about. But actually, it was there all along. And that's what people say all the time. Find your passion, find your path. And we always go, I can't see it. I don't know what you're talking about. But it was there. And it just seems a sort of mental, I don't know, cloud that comes across all of us when we go through college and university and we just want a job. And we come out and the first job that's given to us, or the one that we think is a career because that's what's expected to us, is always the furthest thing away from playing. Because I think at that first step into adulthood, we're kind of going, no, we're not children now, we are adults and we want to be treated like adults, so we're going to do sensible stuff and we're going to do boring stuff. And I wish I could go back in time somehow and kind of go, no, actually, I'm going to have fun. And I'm going to enjoy myself and I'm going to love work because work is what I want to do, not just because it's paying the bills.
Oh, absolutely. I actually have a really interesting story about this that I haven't shared anywhere online, so I'm really happy to share it with you.
You
first,
share it.
David.
This is what we like. This is what this show's all about.
So last year, I was deployed on a ship for about 4 months, and I had just found the appsumo.com website, the website that Noah Kagan's created for entrepreneurs. Love the website. They give out such great products. But anyway, I got an email from him saying that he was holding a retreat in Seattle. And it was $2,000 US, and I had it in the bank, and I said, yes, I am going because you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And, if I surround myself with Noah Kagan and all these entrepreneurs, then I will be successful. Because back then I had such a cloud. I was like, why can't I do this? Everyone else is building a business. Why can't I do it? What is wrong with it? These are things that are all going through my head. It was like there was an invisible ceiling above my head, and I couldn't break through, and I had no idea why. So I thought, maybe if I go meet with Noah Kagan and his team, I will be able to break through the barrier. So as soon as I saw the email, I went to click buy, and it was sold out. I was like, no, that is not right. So I don't know what happened. I had it in my head. It was kind of crazy that I was going to go regardless of if it was sold out. So I began to tell all my friends that, hey, I got a seat, for the AppSumo thing. I'm so excited. Can't wait to meet Noah and all this stuff. I went and bought plane tickets to Seattle. I looked up where the mansion was because he had a picture of it on his on the email. And I looked at all the real estate rental websites in the Seattle area.
Adam, this is stalking.
I was stalking Noah Kagan, and I found out where it was and everything. And the day as I was leaving Tokyo, Narita Airport, I shot Noah an email and I said, hey, my name's Adam and I'm going to come to your event. He's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't come. I don't want to have to throw you out later. And I was like, once he sees how motivated I am, he'll want me to stay. Now, this was delusional, Adam. I'm still delusional, but that was in a much different way because I didn't have a sense. I never met successful people before, really. I mean, I had kind of, but not in this way that I wanted to learn from them. So I was a bit delusional, and I thought, oh, yes, if I am motivated, he'll want me to stay. So whenever I got to Seattle, a good friend from deployment, he gave me his truck, and I was able to stay at his place, and he gave me his truck for the whole time. And I drove down there to meet him, and I pulled in. And I saw Noah. It was at a huge mansion. Bill Gates lives in the same neighborhood. And he said, hey, how's it going? I said, oh, hey, really good, blah, blah, blah. I went inside and gave him some habusaki, which is with a habu snake. There's actually a snake inside the bottle with the liquor. I had some handwritten cards. I thought, hey, I'm providing value to them. I'm saying how good they were and blah, 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 doing all the things that networkers say to do, right? And so I started to talk and mingle with everybody and say, hey, by the way, I have this business idea, this business idea, this business idea. But I didn't realize that that's actually kind of being weird because everyone just kind of relaxing, having fun, and I wasn't analyzing the environment the way I should have and just played it cool. And I went and talked to Noah. I saw him break off and go outside, so I went and talked to him. And he basically was just, as soon as I was like, hey, Noah, and he just looked at me and said, with these super intense, very deep eyes. I've never felt like I've been paid attention to before that deeply in my life. It was like he was looking into my soul. It was crazy, and I want to know how he does that. But he just said, "What do you want, Adam? What do you want from me?" And I said, and I started getting very emotional. I said, I just want to build a business. I want to be successful, and I don't want to stay in the military. It's not for me, and I really just think being here would really help me with that. He just kind of, shook his head and he said, "All right, well, come on inside and bring your laptop." And I said, "Okay." So we sat down at the big, gorgeous wooden table in the dining room, and he started to mentor me one-on-one. And at this point, I was in his monthly 1k.com course, and I saw the same questions he was asking in the course were the exact same things he was asking me on the one-on-one session. And I thought, and it kind of clicked for me at that moment. I said, maybe I just need to keep searching for the idea, because just being with somebody who's successful isn't actually going to help me yet. I actually have to search more myself. And shortly after that, he asked me to leave, and I did. And I braced myself to expect it, because I didn't want to go in there with a high expectation that I was going to stay. And I shot a video of myself afterwards. I looked so depressed. And so in the theme of I like to take failures and turn them into successes. So I was messaging my friend Audrey, and she said, "Oh, just go up to Canada. It's really beautiful. You can go to Vancouver." And I thought, and she said Whistler is close to there. And I thought, "Oh my God, Whistler. I've been wanting to go there since I was like 5 years old to mountain bike." So I went on Airbnb, got a room for a few nights, I think 3 nights, with a Vietnamese lady, extremely clean, very nice. And I just went around Vancouver, had a great time, and I met a 28-year-old girl named Sophie from Switzerland, who was a high school teacher. She spoke 4 languages fluently. It was incredible. And we had a very romantic night, only one night, because the next day she was going to Hawaii and I was going to Whistler. And I went to Whistler and just forgot about the world and mountain biked all day long. And I had such a blast. That trip, I grew so much from that trip, and I will never forget that experience. But it was just crazy.
I think that is an absolute brilliant story. And the question that comes out of me is, why have you never shared that before? Because there is so much value in that story for our listeners who are trying to do the same thing. And they're trying to mimic, they're trying to find their path, they're trying to get that idea that's kind of somewhere in their brain, and occasionally it sort of floats in front of them and then it disappears again. So I think that is really one of the best stories I've ever heard on any of the shows. So why have you not shared that before?
Well, David, I was really just scared to share it, because I really wanted to talk to Noah more and say, like, "Hey, like, why did you throw me out?" And but I never actually did, because I was so scared. It was a loss, and it was very hard. It was a very hard loss. So I don't know. I was just scared to share it.
But I think that is when you become the true Adam Smith. And I think that's when you become the true Richard Branson and the true, David Ralph. I'm not putting myself in your 2 categories in any shape or form. But I do think it's when you absolutely lay it on the line and you show people that, yes, this didn't work and that worked. One of the classic examples of this is Pat Flynn in Smart Passive Income. And he will lay it on the line. This worked, that didn't work. I got close to this, I didn't. And he has got so much loyalty to his customer base due to the fact that he's not making himself out to be anything that he's not. He actually markets himself as a crash test dummy now, and he tries things out so that we can try and find the nuggets on what he's doing to sort of move forward. I think that isn't just your nugget, sir. I think that's actually your goldmine.
Well, thank you very much. I really do enjoy that story, telling it now, and I definitely agree with you with the trying things out and failing, because Tim Ferriss is kind of what got me. His 4-Hour Workweek book has inspired me, I'm sure, like millions of others, to start my own business. And he always tries and fails and tries again, tries again, tries again. He's never had all successes. I mean, and like we were talking about before, bringing your own personality into things. Whenever I hear Tim Ferriss on interviews and things like that, I feel like he brings through his true self that, hey, I'm just a normal guy. I just think about things a little bit differently. And I love that. And I've taken his kind of mentality and made it my own because I absolutely love the way he thinks that, everyday rules and things like this are just socially reinforced. They're not even really rules. It's just a very loose guideline. But because we're social creatures, we follow them anyway because everyone else is saying, like, oh, just go to college or do something normal. And you really, it's not even real. It's just a mental construction that's not even reality. So why not challenge that and do something else?
Tim Ferriss screwed up my life, basically. I was in comfort zone until I read that 4-Hour Work Week. And I've said this numerous times on the shows, but I got to page 44 and I knew my life would never be the same again. And it's the only book in my life that I read it and went straight back and read it again. And I read it 4 times back to back. It had such a big impact on me. And the impact it had at the time was not good because I suddenly knew that I couldn't work for somebody anymore. Because I suddenly knew that my whole being, my whole spirit could not operate between 9 to 5. It needs to operate when I wanted it to operate, which is his sort of message that he gets across in that. So it was, for me, it was one of probably the 3 books that really did change my life as well. But it's made my life a lot harder to begin with until it all falls into place. And, I can have the life that he leads on a daily basis. But it's hugely empowering, that book, even though it's quite old now.
Oh, I agree. It is incredible, and I have you beat. I read it about 10 times, cover to cover. Except for me, I read it in the military, where you can't necessarily just quit the military. So I had to suck it up and really go against what I was feeling in my heart until. Well, I am still in the military, but I'm in the process of out processing. So it's going a lot better now, and I'm able to be more of my true self because I've had to compromise a bit, and I had started business in a completely different time zone than in the States, and I've had to have a full-time job, going to plant for months at a time. So I think if I can start a business with all these challenges that anyone can, if you have a normal job and not quite the time commitments I do, and I'm nothing special. I really am not anything special. I procrastinate. I do all these things, but it's my daily practice, the things I do every day that just brings me a little bit further and further. And if you have a good mentor and someone you trust to help guide you, I think that you'll absolutely fly if you really want to.
Let's bring on the late, great Steve Jobs, because he had an amazing speech which has become the theme to the show. And I'd like to get your spin on this one. So I'm going to play Steve Jobs, and afterwards we're going to ask Adam Smith what he thinks about it. This is Steve Jobs.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever, because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart even when it leads you off the well-worn path, and that will make all the difference.
Do you need to believe in the dots, or do you need to believe in yourself, Adam? And that is the first time I've ever asked that question to anyone.
I think 100% you have to believe in yourself because one of the, I was reading about, what's his name? The Tesla guy.
No, I've gone blank.
Oh my gosh, the CEO of Tesla, Elon Musk. Wow, I love him, and I can't believe I just forgot his name. He's like my idol. I was reading a story about from one of his engineers that was starting SpaceX, and I think it's SpaceX. Anyway, he said, he was an engineer and knew a lot about rocket science and all these things that. But Elon Musk didn't know a thing about it, and he still believed so deeply that he would not fail, that he made it a success. And actually, that engineer dropped out because he thought it couldn't happen. Even though he had more knowledge of what to do, he had more than Elon Musk. The only thing Elon Musk had was the passion, the drive, and the will to believe in the idea and himself to propel it forward. So I think, yeah, that's absolutely the most powerful thing.
Have you had a big dot in your life? When you look back, have you had the dot? And it might not have been a good dot. It might have been one that you look back on, like your sort of girlfriend dragging you into the military and then sort of leaving you and all that kind of stuff. When you go, yeah, that's actually the point when Adam Smith started to find himself. And without that moment, that big dot, I wouldn't be where I was today.
Oh, that is the biggest dot. I mean, without that, as much as I think the military does a bad job of preparing you for life in general because it coddles you so much. But I think it's great that I joined, and I would not be where I am today if it was not for the military, because they also set me up for my future. Because in boot camp, I was very young, and I said, oh yeah, sign me up for the thrift savings plan, the retirement plan. Now I have over 10 grand in the bank, and I'm only 22, and it's sitting there investing. By the time I'm 60 or 70, it'll be over $1 million. And I would not have had that or any of the other rich experiences I've had since joining without the military. So it's kind of, I'm so grateful for it. I really can't say that is the absolute biggest dot. And it's always the really big down points is where my life really shot up the highest. Because if you're not uncomfortable, then you're not going to do anything to change. If you really are just like, if you're really in your comfort zone, then you're not going to want to change. But for you, David, whenever you read 4 Hour Workweek, you became extremely uncomfortable and completely changed your life to build this amazing Join Up Dots podcast. So yeah, I think that believing in yourself is definitely much more important than the actual dots, because the dots, you might not appreciate them in the beginning.
But it is, it's almost freaky, really, that I play that speech 99% of the show. Sometimes the show doesn't quite get there and I sort of run out of time. But generally I will play that. And to a man and a woman, they will go, yes, I can go to that point, to that point, to that point, to that point, to that point. I didn't know that they were joining up, but because I've been trying things and I've been grasping at opportunities, I have got the level of success, the fulfillment, the life design that I craved. And it's very different from people who aren't taking that daily action, who are doing a 9-to-5 job and they're not liking it, but they still go in and do that same job all the time. And if I ask those questions to them, they would go, no, that doesn't mean I wouldn't be in this position if if that was the case. But in a funny way, they are in that position because it's the case, because still their actions have put them into there. And I say this time and time again, if you're in a job and you're listening to this podcast and we're talking passionately and enthusiastically about how great the future can be, it can be. Absolutely. I have no doubt on that. But you've got to take control for your own life. You've got to take responsibilities. And if you are in a situation, and it can be a rubbish boyfriend or a rubbish job, whatever, it's not the only boyfriend or the only job out there. It doesn't have to be the big one for the next step as well. You can leave that job and get another one, and if you don't like it, get another one. Thousands and thousands and millions of people do that, but you don't have to stay in and settle, because you've only got one life, and we should all have a kick-ass life, but you've got to want it. You need to take control and actually go ahead and do it. And there are so many people online now that you can reach out to them, and the successful people, and this has been a big mindset shift for me, that the successful people you would think wouldn't have anything to do with you, but they do, and they will help you out. And like Adam was saying with Noah didn't actually have to say, I'll give you 10-15 minutes. He could have just thrown him out, but he did, because he knows the drive, the hustle that it takes to even reach out that first time. What do you think about that, Adam, that little rant?
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest things, one of the biggest limiting beliefs that I had was that people aren't out there to help you, because I was reading about, networking and things like this, and everyone said, oh, you have to mention what's in it for them, what's in it for them, what's in it for them. You can't focus on yourself. You have to just pour yourself into them, and hopefully they'll help you back. But I found that if it's a genuine connection, that people will absolutely just reach out and help you without doing all the fake networking things and things like that. But you have to really reach a certain point in your life where you're ready for it and you can handle all the greatness that's going to come from those connections.
There is a video on YouTube, and it's by a gentleman called Simon Sinek. It's a TED talk, and it's called Start With Why, or The Reasons Why, or whatever. And he was talking about Apple and how Apple became so successful because they didn't give the benefits. They told people why they make computers, and they were sharing their passion before everything else. And when I watched this video, it changed my life. Quite simply, it changed my life. And I realised then there was a way to reach out to people, and 99% of the time they will come back with a positive. And yeah, you don't have to do the classic networking techniques that everyone talks about, but you do actually have to share why you're actually reaching out to them and what you're trying to achieve in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't be afraid to follow up either. You really have to. You can't just send one email and then say, okay, well, I guess they didn't want to speak with me. I use followup.cc and just have that included in the BCC area, and I follow up with someone 3 or 4 times, and hey, they come back to me, and it's really great. But you can't be afraid and say, oh, I don't want to ask too much of somebody. That was my problem. I always was like, oh, I don't want to ask too much. Like, for instance, I was on a Clarity call, clarity.fm, where you can pay by the minute to speak to entrepreneurs, and I was talking with Chris Brogan, and I kept asking, is there anything I can help you with? Can I help you bring value to you or something? He's like, Adam, look, you're on this call, you're paying me to talk to you, take everything you can. And that really stuck with me. I was like, yeah, I guess he's right, because I am paying for this. And he agreed to give me information, but I was stuck in that weird networking advice that I got to say, hey, make sure you provide as much value to somebody as possible. And I think that, yes, but be genuine, and also know whenever you're giving value, and know whenever it's time for you to receive it back. And just kind of keep that in mind whenever you're networking with people.
Just before we put you on the sermon and the mic, I don't want this show to end, but we need to send you back in time to have a one-on-one with your younger self. I think it's a key part where we talk about just changing habits, and we've all got habits in our life, and some of them are good habits, some of them are bad habits. How does somebody out there who's listening to this conversation start to audit themselves and take control of the habits that actually aren't doing them any good?
Well, habit change starts with awareness. So I think if you start meditating 1 minute a day, that is how you begin, because habits, you need to start extremely small. It's like flossing one tooth. Just meditate for 1 minute a day, and make sure you set up your environment for success. Make sure the night before you put out a cushion or something you're going to use to sit on for that 1 minute. Write it down, say, yes, I will do this, put it on your to-do list, and do it every day. Use Lyft, which is an app to help you track what you're doing. Just put down that 1 minute meditation, start to gain awareness, and you can slowly start to go from 1 minute to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and also start asking yourself one question a day as well. And it can be anything. It can be, what do I really want? What makes me happy? Blah, blah, blah. And just start doing those little things every day, and just they'll eventually build up to where you have a daily practice. And also, if you're going to be doing this, do not just put it at some random point in the day. It's best to put, if you're trying to create a new habit, it should connect with a habit chain. So let's say in the morning you always wake up, brush your teeth, do 5 push-ups, and make coffee. So after you're done drinking your coffee is whenever you would do your 1 minute meditation, and then write down your one question. Don't try to do it at 2 o'clock, because anything can happen at 2 o'clock. But in the morning, your routine is generally the same every time, because you're too tired anyway to change it. And then you're able to start recognizing the bad habits and say, okay, I don't really like that whenever that I eat so much candy or something. This is a huge problem for me, is I have a problem eating candy. So, okay, what's my environment like? I would I get back from work, sit down on the couch, and put on a movie. And boom, that was my trigger. I'd go walk out of my apartment and go to 7-Eleven, come back and have 3 chocolate bars. And as soon as I stopped watching TV altogether, that habit went away, with some help from meditation to identify what my triggers were.
So with meditation, because I have a problem that I imagine if I did meditate, I would just go to sleep. So how do people actually start meditating, and it's not just them sitting there wondering what they're doing? Is there a way to sort of kickstart it to actually get the benefits if they've never done that before?
Yeah, drink a lot of coffee before you do it, and also get your heart rate up a little bit. Maybe do a few push-ups or squats right before you meditate. And although with some people that gets them a little too excited to meditate because you do have to be in a relaxed state of mind, breathe deeply and focus on the breath. I recommended apps in the beginning because it helps you identify. It gives you kind of more of a reason to meditate because later you kind of start to realize, okay, this is very powerful. But in the beginning, you don't really see it as much. So Headspace is a great iPhone app that teaches you how to meditate, and it's actually how I started. So it's very good. Or you can do a meditation retreat at dhamma.org, which is they have 10-day retreats, and that will absolutely change your life.
And do you have to think of an idea before you meditate, or is the idea not to think of anything and wait for something to pop into your mind?
You really just, as you're focusing on your breath, thoughts and ideas will always pop into your head. You can't stop that from happening. So you're just going to drive yourself crazy by not thinking about anything. And I think that's why a lot of people get frustrated with meditation. So if you just focus on the breath, a thought will come up and then it'll go away. A thought will come up and then it'll go away. And what you're really doing is training your brain to notice the thought, but not let it affect you. So a lot of times somebody might say something to you and it really makes you very angry. What meditation helps you do is train your mind to kind of ignore these thoughts and helps you be your more authentic self because you're not reacting to these manifestations in your mind, which aren't even true. They're not real. They're really not part of your true self because a lot of times these will be negative thoughts, and you have so many in a day that if you're not meditating, you can just become overpowered by these random thoughts in your mind. So it's much more powerful to meditate and train your mind to become more. You'll become much more emotionally resilient. You'll have more motivation, and it really is just so many positive benefits to meditating.
Right, last question, just before I send you back in time to have a one-on-one with your younger self. I'm going to send you forward. And say you're laying on your deathbed. What would you like your mark to be on this planet, that Adam Smith has been there? Do you ever think about that, or is that something that is just going to happen naturally? Are you aiming on a big picture?
I'm not sure what my end goal is. Right now, I really want to change the finance industry. I think the banks are just terrible. I mean, the 2008 crash in the States is just, that should not have happened. And I really like what Simple.com is doing, where they have a store, basically a website front and an app, and they help people save money. They're not trying to steal money from them. They don't make money off fees. And my uncle has a connection with one of the Samware brothers. He's a client of his. So I have a huge connection here in Europe. So I really think that if I brought a business like that to Europe, that maybe I can change some lives and help people gain more financial freedom. So maybe, I don't know if that is something, if that's really what I want to do, but it's something that right now I'm very passionate about. I'm thinking about for a few years now, actually. So maybe that.
And that's the beauty, isn't it? You don't need to have it nailed down. You just need to keep on trying to do stuff.
Exactly.
Right, let's play the theme tune. And this is the part of the show that we call the Sermon on the Mic. And this is when we send you back in time to have a one-on-one with your younger self. And if you could go back in time and find the younger Adam, what age Adam would it be? Would it be a 5-year-old? Would it be the one just going into the army? Or would it be the one a couple of hours ago? So I'm going to play the music, and when it fades out, you're up. And this is the Sermon on the Mic. Ooh,
here we go with the best bit of the show, the Sermon on the Mic, the Sermon on the Mic.
Hey, little Adam, this is Big Adam. You are doing a fantastic job. Keep up the good work, because I know right now you're 16 and you're struggling a lot in high school with making friends and you're very shy. Please, 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 just start meditating. Start asking yourself those questions every day. Start reading as much as you can. Gain as much knowledge, and don't worry so much about the other people, because once you become your authentic self, once you really start to find yourself, other people will naturally be drawn to you anyway. So you don't worry, you will become great. You're a handsome man, and I love you to death. Little Adam, there you go.
Do you know, Adam, I think I love you to death as well, because I look at you, and when you said you was 22, I thought, oh, God, I wish I had your drive at the age of 22. I'm 44 now, and I've just kicked into it. And for years and years and years, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just sort of floated from one job to another, went out for a few beers in the evening, and then an occasional holiday every now and again. And that was just how my life was. And so the fact that you are making these decisions at such an early age, it really does give you a head start on so many people. So I salute you, sir. I wish I had your drive at that age.
Thank you, David. But then I look at people like the Snapchat founder, who I think he's also 22, and he just got offered billions for his company. So I'm like, oh man, I wish I could start a little bit earlier.
I've got a chap coming on the show in a couple of hours' time, and he is 16 at the moment, and he's called Houston Gunn. And he is an entrepreneur in America who's been with Donald Trump and Dave Ramsey and some of kind of the power hitters. And he is inspired to be a millionaire by the time he leaves college. And he had a big dot in his life when he was in a class assembly. And they said, if you do your education and you really do well for yourself, then by the time you retire, you could have $1 million. And everyone cheered. And he thought, what? So that's 25,000 for the next 40 years. Surely we should celebrate the fact that, you know, I could be a millionaire by the time I leave college. And that's drive beyond anything that I could have perceived having.
Wow, that's like a miniature Tim Ferriss in the works.
It is, absolutely. So I'm going to have an interesting chat with him, as we have had an interesting chat with you. So all the listeners out there, sir, how can they connect with you?
My blog, adsmith.me, or at Twitter at AdamDaveSmith. Those are the two best places.
Well, it's been an absolute delight to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, joining up those dots. Please come back again when you have more dots to join up, because I do believe that by joining up those dots and connecting our past is the best way to build our futures. Adam Smith, thank you so much.
Thank you, David. Have a wonderful day.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice That Every Successful Entrepreneur Practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.